All right, what's going on, YouTube? I just had to, I got the courage up to share my story and just express the things that I experienced and, you know, with this Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Um, I don't think it's a hoax. I think it's real. I've had several situations where I've encountered or had some kind of experience with them. And this particular time was back in '08 in North Carolina, a little town right outside of Charlotte. And it was me, my uncle, and my two cousins, my two uncles and my two cousins. And had just got done eating and went outside and we was all around the fire barrel. It's probably like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night. And we had a little gathering at my uncle's house. We was all sitting around the fire barrel. And my uncle, he was the last one to get done eating. So when he came out the house, he made a noise like, woo, but it was real loud. So in the country, them woods, it'll make. So once he made that noise coming out the house, we heard something reply back making the same noise. And it was like maybe, it sounded like it was almost half a mile away. It was real faint, but you could hear it. So I asked everyone, I was like, did y'all hear that? Everybody's like, yeah, it's probably somebody in the woods. So I said, do it again. I told my uncle to do it again. He did it again. And he did it. It was, woo! This noise, from the time I'm telling y'all the story, it's happening this fast. He did it again, and the noise sounded like it had moved up maybe 200 yards. And it did it again. Whoo! Made the noise back real loud. And my uncle was like, oh, it's probably somebody in the woods coon hunting or playing around. And I'm like, in the country where we from, it's dark. Like you can't see your hand in front of your face. Dark. No street lights. So I told him, that's not nobody in the woods. If you, in the woods at this time of night, you crazy, So he's like, oh, they probably coon hunting. No dogs. Everybody know if you coon hunting, you gotta have dogs. We heard no dogs barking. And I was like, man, make the noise again. So he made it. He made a different noise. He said, woo, woo. And within, like I said, this time frame I'm telling y'all the story is happening this fast. The noise replied back, and it was woo, woo, exactly how he made it. But it sounded like it had came up another 100, 200 yards closer. So by this time, they're like, man, what is that? What is that? I'm like, man, it's something in the woods. That ain't no person moving that fast. So I told my uncle to do it again, and before he did it again, the noise made it. It made the noise again. Woo! Now, by this time, it's loud. Like, it's probably like 400, 500 yards away. Like, it's moving. So one of my uncles went in the house. And he was like, man, I'm going in the house. So he went in the house. Me and my cousin and my one uncle that was making noise was still standing out there. So this noise, we're talking like, man, what is that? You know what I'm saying? This. So I said, do it again. And my uncle was like, no, I'm not doing it again. It's probably somebody in the woods, and I ain't trying to get shot. So I said, I'll do it. So I did it. I made the noise, woo! And this noise, I keep saying this noise because it wasn't a person. It was a deep, deep woo. And it sounded like it was probably, by this time, it sounded like it was probably 200 yards away. I mean, it was moving very, very fast. So my uncle was like, man, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. So we're sitting around talking. I mean, while I'm telling this story, this is how fast this thing is moving through the woods. So then I told my uncle, I said, do it again. He wouldn't do it again. So I said, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And when I said woo, and as soon as I got done with the woo, this the sound came from directly behind us, and it was so massive, it shook the inside of your body. It sounded like something in the zoo, like a lion bear mixed with a gorilla mixed with I don't know what. And I know, my family, they laugh at me when I tell them the story. My cousin and my uncles, they won't tell the story because they don't want to believe what we heard. So it made the noise, and it was a noise like, but it was so loud to where it trembled the inside of your body like standing beside a race car with headers on it. It was trembling in the inside of my body. And you could tell that it was tall because the sound was, the vibration off of the sound was like, it wasn't my height. You could tell it was coming from up, like it was making that noise. So we froze. We're standing there froze. And I started tiptoeing to my truck to get my sidearm. And when I got to my truck, I grabbed my sidearm, walking back to the fire bell. And when I got back to the fire bell, it did it again, but it sounded like it was 300 yards away, the opposite way from where it came from, going down towards the river. And it made a noise. Woo! Real loud. And we all looking at each other, and I'm like, not saying nothing, we're just looking. So my uncle went in the house. Me and my cousin was the only ones out there. And we were sitting there talking, whispering, like, man, I wonder what it is. I say, man, that's a Bigfoot. He like, man, ain't no Bigfoots. And I'm like, no, it's a Bigfoot. Like I said, I've never heard nothing that massive and strong. You could hear his throat, like his chest. It was so massive. And we were standing out there, and I made the noise after he made it the last time, after he did that, woo! It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then I said, woo! It didn't make no more noises. And we sat out there for a little bit more, and I made the noise again, didn't hear nothing. And ever since that day, I was on edge. Because that was my real, like, first time hearing them. I have my first time when I first, encountered, I don't want to say encountered them, but felt something walking in the woods parallel to me. I was a young boy, and I was walking down the street at night with my mother, and we was going to a neighbor's house that's like, maybe 300 yards down the road, 400 yards down the road. We was going to a neighbor house one night, and it was me and my mother, and you could hear the noise on every footstep it made, and if the way it was walking parallel to us in the woods, it would go out, and then it would come back closer. It would go out and come back closer. And I remember looking in the woods and slowing my paces up because I was young. I was probably like 7 years old. And my mother grabbed me and like pulled me closer to her and kind of, picked her step up a little bit walking. But it just stayed parallel with us in the woods. That was the very first time. So I've always had knew something was up with the woods, and old folks used to tell us where we grew up at, never ever walk walk the roads alone at night, or never walk at night, around where we grew up at. It's very country, nothing but woods. Everybody stay on the same street. We all related, and old folks always just tell us don't walk the roads at night. And, don't be outside at night by yourself. And we've heard Cats, bobcats crying. We've heard coyotes hollering. I mean, I was raised in the woods. I coon hunted, rabbit hunted, squirrel hunted. I mean, I've hunted deer. I've hunted all. So I know sounds. I'm a country boy, so I was raised in the country. So it's nothing that's gonna like make me scratch my head if I hear something. But this particular incident made me scratch my head, and I was puzzled by the massive sound that came out of this animal, because it was an animal. It wasn't a human, and I just was. It's always stuck with me, and I know I've watched plenty of YouTubers that's done express the situations they've been in, and I just had to express the situation that I was in. And now that I'm older, I'm not old, but older than what I was, I I've always wanted to really venture out and find that noise again, because I've had other incidents, and I'm going to put some more videos up about some situations, and I'm going to take y'all to some places where I've seen some things coming up through the woods, and just some more experience that I've had, because I've had more experiences, but they have not been this in depth with interacting with them like this. Like, I've had different experiences that's been a little different, but actually seeing him, that happened one time. One time I've actually seen the silhouette, the outlining of this 9 foot, 8, 9 foot tall, broad shouldered creature, and I could just see him from the moonlight. And that's when I could see his whole body. I've seen eye shine. I've seen, they say, some people say their eyes look like coal or red. The eyes I seen was like a orangish, yellowish, not quite red, but it was like a orangish, yellowish color. And that was on the side of a highway one time. And I was in Virginia, because I drive trucks. So that was a different experience. But I'm gonna make some more videos. Do some. I'm gonna do some things, man, so I can kind of express myself and show y'all what I've seen, and maybe even build my courage up to be out there in the woods at night, and get some video, some sounds or something, because this Bigfoot that's in our neighborhood, where I grew up at. I don't live over there anymore, but it's still over there. It's still roaming those woods, because even till today, it's people that stays over there and says they hear things at night, and they don't go outside at night because they just don't feel safe. And with it being in the country, people don't really tend to, I guess, believe it, because they're like, all these country folks don't know what they're talking about, or just saying anything. But I'm gonna post some more videos. I'm gonna go out in the woods at night if I get my courage up. But that scared the living crap out of me, and that's gonna always stick with me, man, for the rest of my life. That's been an experience that I would never forget, that particular day when it made itself be known. And yeah, man, just tune in, subscribe, because like I say, the videos are coming, and maybe I'll be the lucky one to lure this thing in, because I'm to the point to where I want to make a believer out of a lot of people that don't believe it, because I would never think that I would be this in tune to trying to prove something to someone. And I'm trying to prove it to the world. I'm trying to prove it to you guys. And a lot of y'all already know, y'all have already experienced some things and you know that it's real. And I know that it's real. I know what I experienced. So just like, subscribe, man, and stay tuned. And I have some pretty good videos coming here soon. All right, appreciate y'all guys, man.